Hello and welcome to today's video. Today we are here and we're going to talk about something a little interesting that I sort of thought up the other day. So I was reading about how there's obviously an interest in getting a second Formula One race to take place in America. It's a big thing. They used to do that back, I believe it was like the 70s. They used to do two different Grand Prix in America. And there's obviously been discussion about where to do that race, what to do. Of course, one race, the U.S. Grand Prix, currently already takes place at Circuit of the Americas. That's a brilliant track, and they're not going to leave that track. Purpose built for F1, the only track in America specifically built for Formula One. So, I was thinking, what tracks could race for F1? What tracks could they race? Now, of course, one of these is a very obvious choice. The other one is a very far out option. So, first, I want to take and just say I don't like the Miami track that they were rumored to be working on doing. That would take place around the Hard Rock Cafe Stadium in Florida, which is where the Miami Dolphins play. It'd be a track kind of built around the parking lot. And I don't like that idea. From what I've read about races that took place in parking lots in F1 before, long time ago, it doesn't seem like something you do. And for F1 to be like this, the sport that it is, they don't need to be racing in parking lots. Come on. So to do a purpose-built parking lot kind of track around a football stadium doesn't really seem to make sense to me. I guess a lot of it was the people in Miami didn't want to hear the cars going through the streets. But you live in a city. And the other thing is these cars aren't loud like they used to be. We're not talking about F1 cars before, 2014. Anything before 2014 sounded like insane. That's a little more tame, being a hybrid. So, the two options of tracks that I think, these are good ones. I think that if you want to get more popularity in America, right, as a sport, a racing series, why not use tracks that are used by the already existing, already popular series in America? So in America, obviously, there's two different racing series that are very popular. You have NASCAR, which is the top popularity, followed by IndyCar. Those two are the most popular, and, that's what you're going to get. So, why not use a track from either one of those series? Now, of course, an IndyCar track makes a little bit more sense due to the very similar, natures of it. They're both open wheel cars. So they're a lot closer. I believe a IndyCar's speed is similar to an F2 car. So, they're similar cars. They're similar types of things. Of course, NASCAR is different. It's a big, heavy stock car. But we're going to get into what tracks we should do. So first, I want to start with one of the biggest races in the world, the Indy 500. So, of course, Indianapolis and the Indy 500, massive race, one of the biggest ones. Indy 500 takes place the same day as the Monaco Grand Prix. And overall, decent track. Now, there's the road layout, which they used at Indianapolis for F1 before. Now they do an IndyCar race on it. They're doing NASCAR races this year on it. They did the Xfinity Series last year. Now they're doing both Cup and Xfinity at it this season. And I think that track is a good idea. I think that going back there for F1, something they haven't done since 2007, wouldn't be a terrible idea. I think that getting F1 to race in Indianapolis would be brilliant. I think that of any option, that's my number one choice. I think racing in Indianapolis with F1 would just be a spectacle to see. The second option is a little bit more wild, but I think would be very, very interesting to see. And I think that would be the Daytona Road Course. Okay. So you do run into things with ownership of the tracks. With these, of course, Indianapolis is owned by Roger Penske, so it doesn't really matter. Daytona is owned by NASCAR. They own that track. So I don't know necessarily if they'd be like, hey, come race at our biggest track. Biggest in popularity-wise. Recognition. But it'd be cool to see it. So, of course, when you think Daytona, the main thing is the massive 2.5-mile oval. Now, I'm not suggesting that Formula One cars race on a 2.5-mile oval. If I was, I'd recommend Talladega, which is 2.6 miles and absolutely insane. But I don't see F1 racing in Alabama. So, I think if you want to race in Florida, you want to do a race there, why would you do a purpose-built, not purpose-built, but like partially track-built thing in a parking lot of a football team when you have the Daytona Road Course? Now, this track is partially used in the oval and is a high amount of banking, so I don't really know how that would work. That's why I said it's a little bit more wild of a concept. Because the banking there, you're going up on 31-degree banking in turns 2 and 3, or 1 and 2, and 3 and 4. That's what I should say. And then in like the front stretch tri-oval section is 18 degrees of banking. So that's similar to what you're going to get at, what's the Zandvoort's banking? The Dutch Grand Prix. What's that, 24 degrees, I think? In that banked turn onto the front straight. Of course, we haven't seen cars race on it officially. We've seen Max Verstappen do a test there in an old Red Bull, but we haven't seen an actual race on it. Of course, it got canceled last year. But if they're looking at potentially using a little bit of banking, that opens up the potential, at least, to use a Daytona Road Course. Now, Daytona Road Course, you start on the front, and again, this might make starts of the race a little bit wild because it's on a banking. Instead of being flat, it's banked on a turn. But it'd be fun nonetheless. So you start on the banking, you brake hard into turn 1 to the infield. You have a little bit of a little slight turn, which you could just go practically straight through. Another turn down onto a straight. This is all in the infield. Around to the side, up around the other way here, and then back up onto the banking. Then you head to the back straight. There's a little bit of a bus stop. Onto the front, through the banking of turn 3 and 4. Then you get to the front, to the tri-oval, and back into the middle section. Of course, you wouldn't have to use the little front bus stop chicane that they added in for the Cup cars, or for NASCAR in general. F1 cars have bigger brakes. They're able to brake from higher speeds into a turn, where NASCAR's have a little smaller brakes, of course. This season is going to be the most road courses ever used in NASCAR. They typically just race ovals where you're not braking that hard unless you're coming to the pits, or if you're, maybe brake a little bit for the corner, but it's not like hard on the brakes. So the only time you really ever brake that much in NASCAR is the short tracks, Bristol, Richmond, Martinsville, and then the road courses, which again we're seeing more of. So they need to slow the cars down because you don't want them coming all the way around 3 and 4, all the way to that first turn. So you don't need that though for F1. But I think F1 at Daytona Road Course would be wild. That's just my thoughts on that, though. I think that track is awesome. I've seen a lot of racing on it in the past 6 months, pretty much since NASCAR raced there in August. I've seen all 3 races there in August. I've watched a good amount of the Rolex 24 Hours this year. First time I really watched it that much. Watched that, though. And then Busch Clash for NASCAR, and then all 3 NASCAR races again. The trucks, Xfinity, and Cup. So I've watched 8 races on that track now. And I've played it plenty of times in Project Cars 2 and 3. Track's awesome. I love that track so much. It's pretty fun. So I like to see F1 race on it. Let me know what you think down below, but my number one choice is still Indianapolis Road Course. So one of those two, though. Love to see for the second U.S. Grand Prix. Let me know down below what you think, and we'll see you guys in the next one.